Hello, church family. Welcome back to the Bible reading plan. Today we'll be in 1 Corinthians 13. And we've already seen some excellent works of Paul throughout all of the Corinthian letters. And we are diving into what my chapter calls the way of love. And a lot of people refer to chapter 13 as the book of love. In chapter 12, we saw a lot of the spiritual gifts and how Paul displays each part as a whole in the church of Corinth, and how we can still apply that here to our daily walk with Christ as well as our part of the church. So keep that in mind as we read the first few verses. Verse 1 through 3 actually kind of touches on some spiritual gifts, tongues, prophecy, faith, and even giving there at the end, and all of it is in contrast to charity. So in verse 1 it says, "Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become a sounding glass or a tinkling cymbal." Basically to say that even if you have the spiritual gift that God has given you, that is a blessing from the Lord, and you have not love, then you are nothing. And so that means that, again, this is a part to a whole. Charity is required to fulfill the spiritual gifts that you have. Love is needed in order to reach someone, to share the gospel, to go beyond what may be presented through a spiritual gift or even your physical attributes as a human being. But love transcends the barrier and the gap between God and man. And so that is where we must apply how we can share the gospel with others through charity. And so through verses 4 through 8, you see what truly is the definition of the love chapter, where charity in the King James Version and love in most of the others is listed off as a characteristic of many things. It suffereth long, it envieth not, it vaunteth not itself, it's not puffed up, it rejoiceth not in iniquity. All of those things. And I've heard before, to really self-assess yourself, can you fill in your name and it still mean true to who you are? Can I say that I suffer long? No. Tanner would say no as well. Can I say that I don't envy? And so thinking upon those things as how you are able to show what Christ has done for you in his death and resurrection as we celebrate Easter coming up, but also in the gifts that you've been given and how you can share the gospel with others. Again, letting love transcend all barriers. In verse 9, and especially through the rest of the chapter, you kind of see a picture of a part without the full picture. So it says, "For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away." Verse 11, "When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things." And then he has the example of looking through a glass dimly, being able to see face to face when I am whole, what the true meaning of love is. And I think that is only really defined when we are able to be united fully with Christ and God in heaven, and being able to see all of the characteristics in ourselves that truly define God. And I think the last verse in this chapter, verse 13 of chapter 13, it says, "Now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity." So moving forward, just being able to look at yourself, knowing that you're not perfect, you're just a part to the many pieces that fit the puzzle of Christ in the church, but also that you must display these characteristics to do your part to share in your spiritual gift that God has given you, but also to fulfill the kingdom and further the gospel. And so taking on those characteristics of charity and love is really what I think Paul has for us here. And it's still applicable today, even though it talks of spiritual gifts that we may not all share. But especially as we're moving into chapter 14, where he goes deeper into specific spiritual gifts, remembering that love is the foundation that it is built on. And I actually did read something in preparation that it said faith was the foundation, hope was the attitude, and love was the action. And so keeping those characteristics in mind as we move forward through Corinthians and the teachings that Paul has for us. Hope this is applicable to you, that it brought you some sort of extra meaning to 1 Corinthians 13, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.